US, we have a form of government known as democracy, in which instead of giving the power to one person or a small group of people, like in previous forms of government, it puts the power in the hands of the people. While putting together this new form of government, the framers worried that the government would have too much power, like the monarchy that they formerly belonged to. So they installed many different ways to limit the government's power. One way they did this was splitting up each level of government into 3 parts, or branches: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. This is known as separation of powers. It provides a barrier between the separate powers of government, so it's hard to accumulate power and gain control of the entire government. But they decided that wasn't enough. So to further divide the government, the legislative branch was split into 2 houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. This is known as bicameralism. It's important because of the 3 branches of government, the legislative is by far the most powerful, and in dividing its powers, the framers further discouraged the accumulation of power in government. In the U.S.'s democracy, we have free and fair elections to elect officials to represent the people in government. In order to keep them free, anyone can run for office, and all citizens are able to vote, but can choose not to vote if they so wish. To keep them fair, citizens in the U.S. have access to information on the candidates and issues in government from the press, and citizens' ballots are kept secret so they cannot be intimidated or retaliated against by the party in power based on who they vote for. As previously mentioned, citizens have access to information on candidates and issues in the government from the press. This is part of the First Amendment right to freedom of press and expression. People are allowed to express their opinion through many ways in the U.S., such as articles, protests, radio talk shows, and more. Even if it goes against the government or party in power, the Constitution guarantees the government cannot silence their opinion and allows them to get their opinion out there. This helps keep the elections free and fair. In the 2016 general election, there are 34 Senate seats up for election, which is very important to pay attention to because the Congress is one of the most powerful branches of government. The Senate by itself has the power to review presidential appointments, which gives them almost total control over who works under the president. They also have the power to ratify treaties, which gives them almost express power to what countries the U.S. associates with and make deals with. And, most importantly, in collaboration with the House of Representatives, the Senate can pass almost any law. Most states are very diverse and consists of many different types of people, belonging to many different demographic groups. Indiana is not one of those states. Based on data by Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation State Health Facts, Demographics and the Economy, or the KFF for short. Age-wise, Indiana is fairly spread out, with data by the KFF, population distribution by age, stating that young people under 19 to people aged 34 make up 47% of Indiana's population. Separately, 19 and under making up 26%, people aged 19 to 25 making up 9%, and people 26 to 24 making up 12%. More data by the KFF, population distribution by age, shows that middle-aged people make up around 39% of Indiana's population, with separately 35 to 54-year-olds making up 26% of the population, and 55 to 65-year-olds composing 13% of the population. And elderly people, those 65 and older, make up around 16% of Indiana's population. Based on data by the KFF, population distribution by race. In terms of race, Indiana is not very spread out at all, with KFF data showing that whites make up 80% of Indiana's population, with African Americans making up 9%, Hispanics at 8%, and Asian Americans at 2%. This data by the KFF illustrates that Indiana is a very white state. This small range is shown again in Indiana's religious demographics, with data from Pew Forum Religious Landscape Study of Adults in Indiana showing that forms of Christianity make up 70% of the population. Separately, Evangelist Protestants making up 31%, Catholics making up 18%, mainland Protestants making up 16%, and historically black Protestants making up the other 5%. Non-Christian religions such as Mormon, other Christian, Jewish, and Muslim make up 1% of the population or lower. However, 19% of the Indiana population is unaffiliated with any religion. Data from the U.S. Census Bureau, Indiana Education Quick Facts, reveals that Indiana citizens are usually highly educated, with their high school graduation rate at 87.6%, 1.6 percentage points higher than the national average. However, the U.S. Census Bureau, Indiana Education Quick Facts, also shows that their college graduation rate, that sits at 23.6%, is 6.7 percentage points lower than the national rate. So far based on the data presented, it can be determined that Indiana is a mainly young, white, educated Christian state. Two demographic groups that usually vote Republican and two demographic groups that usually vote Democratic. Todd Young is the Republican candidate running for Indiana Senate seat. According to the biography section of the Todd Young for U.S. Senate page, Young served as an intelligence officer in the U.S. Marine Corps, specializing in counter-narcotics and anti-terrorism, before heading to Washington to become a congressman representing Indiana in the House of Representatives. He's pretty much your typical Republican, supporting pro-life, Second Amendment rights, and a strong national defense, as stated in the issues section of the Todd Young for U.S. Senate page. According to Open Secret summary data for the 2016 Indiana Senate race, as of October 19th, Bay has raised $8,742,225 and spent $8,897,232 all for his campaign, with $606,705 on hand. His biggest contributor is Eli & Co., a pharmaceutical company that donated $48,950 to his campaign. According to polls by 538, up until early August, Young had a large lead, with a 76.6% chance of winning the seat. However, as of October 31st, his chances have dropped significantly, with a now only 98.9% chance of winning the seat shown. Now, Mr. Todd Young was doing pretty well for himself, and according to 538, who will win Indiana, the polls are showing he would take the win easily. Then in walks Evan Bay. According to the Evan Bay for U.S. Senator About page, Bay is the former beloved governor of Indiana, plus he's already been senator, winning the seat in the 1998 election. As stated on the Evan Bay for U.S. Senator issue section, the Democratic candidate supports Medicare and Social Security, making college affordable, and reduce government spending, which is very unusual for a Democratic candidate, on the authority of the Democratic Party platform website. According to Open Secret summary data of the 2016 Indiana Senate race, as of September 30th, Bay has raised $2,805,638 for his campaign, spent $7,629,182, and has on hand $5,402,263. His biggest contributor is a Thornton law firm that donated $13,500 to his campaign. According to polls by 538, who will win Indiana, up until early August, Bay was losing by many points, with an only 23.3% chance of winning the seat. But after that, his chances skyrocketed, with a 71.1% chance of winning the seat as of October 31st. Evan Bay is the former senator of Indiana, and based on the Evan Bay for U.S. Senate About page, he was a pretty good one too. On the Evan Bay for U.S. Senate About page, it states he created the biggest budget surplus in Indiana history and made many citizens happy with a $1.6 billion tax cut, again the biggest in Indiana's history, as well as creating 3,500,000 jobs in Indiana. Not only that, but in 1990, Bay signed the 21st Century Scholars Act, providing full tuition scholarships to Indiana public universities for students who pledged not to do illegal drugs. That's enough to make any voter happy, Republican or Democrat. Based on his plethora of successes as governor, many citizens will vote retrospectively in his favor. Also, the political know-nothings are going to vote for Evan Bay, boosting his popular vote because they know the family name. According to Evan Bay's biography on biography.com, Bay is the son of Birch Bay, Also a former U.S. Senator that, according to the Birch Bay site biography section, represented Indiana and helped author the 25th and 26th Amendments to the Constitution. So on the political note, when things head out to vote on November 8th, they will most likely vote for the name that they recognize, which will most likely be Bay, because most of the middle-aged population of Indiana citizens grew up with him as their senator. As discussed previously in the video, Indiana's top 4 population characteristics, based off data from the KFF, are split in terms of which party they are most likely to vote for. That's where Evan Bay comes in. According to the Evan Bay for U.S. Senator About page, Evan is a fiscal conservative, a typically Republican belief, on the authority of the Republican Party platform website. But as previously discussed in the video, on most other issues he is more typically Democratic, based on the Democrat Party platform website. Due to his appeal to both groups, it allows Evan to get voters from both parties. This will allow him to get more votes and ultimately win the election, along with the other 2 reasons previously discussed. With Evan Bay in the Indiana Senate seat, along with many other Democratic senators from typically Republican states, the Democrats will finally win back the majority of the Senate. In fact, according to 538, who will win the Senate, the Democrats have a 68.9% chance of winning control to the Republicans' 31.1%. In addition to majority in the Senate, the Democrats will also win the presidential office, with the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton having a 64.7% chance of winning the office, according to 538, who will win the presidency. Even though the Republican candidate will win many states, such as Indiana, where he has a 97.1% chance of winning. With the Democratic-controlled Senate and a Democratic president, political gridlock will decline, and hopefully some legislation will be passed to help people in poverty, equal rights of homosexuals, and to help balance the national debt.